is the Matt Mosley Obstructed View podcast, also heard on ESPN Central Texas, of course. And you are looking live at Jeff Chakouian, and of course Jeff. A lot of people call him Chak, and because of the way his name looks in print. Jeff, does anybody call you anything other than Chak? Do you?
Yeah, my family, my wife, and my parents will call me Jeff, and that's
Okay.
Chak has been my nickname since, gosh, probably the 6th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was big playing basketball. I was the same height I am now in the 6th grade. So that's when Chak was young and all that, and I was playing. So it was a real easy fix to everyone calling me Chak. But it got to the point, teachers, principals, everyone just referred to me as Chak. A lot of people don't even know my name. They just know me as Chak,
Well, for people that don't know, Chak coaches at Baylor. He's a throw coach. He's got the Baylor shirt on, which is helpful, the golf shirt. And he's getting on a flight to Paris. I believe it's, as we record this on a Tuesday, he's going to head out on Wednesday. And so, Chak, I'm sure as Michael Ford and all your friends were posting all their stuff at opening ceremonies, you were kind of like, oh, man, I'm ready to get over there. But, you've had time to kind of prepare, get all packed up and all, and you will be headed over. And obviously, you're the throw coach for Baylor track and field, and you have one of the great throwers in the country, in the world, and that is the javelin, thrower. We know him as Zaza Nnamdi, and you were telling me before you only called him by his true Nigerian first name, maybe when he's in trouble or something, or when you have to get on to him. But, what a fascinating time. And so as you've I'm just kind of wondering now, are you like me? Like, I'm kind of into this. Are you waiting till you get over there to really catch the Olympic spirit? Or have you been already watching all the events? Obviously, track and field haven't started yet, but, gymnastics, men's, women's, handball, fencing, all these things that are going on. Do you find yourself drawn to that? And are you like me, kind of on that Peacock channel, trying to watch as much as you can?
Yeah, we are at our house. We're borderline obsessed with the Olympics. We have been for a while. My wife's mother actually sent me a clip when she was in kindergarten. She was in the newspaper, and they do that for her little town, and it says what you want to be when you grow up, and hers says I want to be in the Olympics. Everyone was, I want to be a movie star, or, whatever, a teacher, or, all that. But she wanted to be an Olympics. So she's kind of an Olympics freak. I am as well. I mean, anytime you get people that are just doing anything at such a high level, it's so compelling to me. And I mean, we get out in the morning, we sit outside, we get our breakfast, and we're watching. We have a little TV outside. We're watching, and we're coming up. I think so far my favorite thing that I haven't done in the past was a cross-country equestrian. I don't know if you've seen that, but you kind of think of equestrian, if they're jumping over things, but it's kind of contained. They're running through woods and jumping over water things and hedges and all that. And so as we're kind of like all into that, our daughters and everything, we're into it. But the Olympics, I guarantee you, if my wife isn't home right now, it is on. It's been on from the opening ceremony all the way, as soon as we get up in the morning till when we go to bed at night.
Right. Be careful with that, because your daughters are going to want a horse. I mean, this gets very expensive if they get way into this. There's something called dressage that has to do with horses in the equestrian world. And somebody got in trouble in Great Britain for being too tough on a horse. And some video got going on that a few years ago. And so, again, this is the drama. And of course, as a journalist, this is the stuff we're drawn to. It's like, oh my gosh, there's drama. Watching Simone the other night, she messed up her ankle a little bit. It's like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen here? And of course, she nails it and is able to still jump 10 feet in the air, however she goes, even with a banged up ankle. So I'm just not used to the announcers, and I'm sure it'll be a little different when they start calling Zaza's throws, because it'll be mostly American announcers. We'll be watching this on NBC, And so they may not be over the top, but I'm struck by how our announcers, even though we all want Simone to do well, we're not used to announcers like sort of rooting that openly. And it was, I got to tell you, as a reporter, it's a little bit like off-putting. I'm like, okay, it's okay to be happy for the U.S., but we sort of want you to remain, like calling these sports. Now, let me ask you this: when was the first time? You've been on the Baylor campus for going on, I think I was looking 7, 8 years. UCF, you had a great run there and had some tremendous champions there. So you get to Baylor. When was the first time Zaza got on your radar? And I'm fascinated with the idea of how a young man from Nigeria, when does he pick up a javelin for the first time? How does he know he's going to be great at this? So when was he first on y'all's radar, and what was that like? I mean, like that. When was that first time you remember hearing about him and sort of starting the process?
It's a story. It's an absolute story, especially with him. But as far as him, he went out for track as a young person and picked up the javelin. He had a coach in Nigeria when he was young, and just really understood how to train people the long term, just letting him learn over a few years and understanding how to throw, not really pressuring him to throw far. So he had some really good training over there. Everyone always asks, how did you get that guy to Baylor? And it's really a God thing. I was recruiting an athlete who happened to be at a junior college. It didn't work out for her to come to Baylor when eventually there was some age stuff and she couldn't go to Division I, but I actually went through and explained to her everything and told her if there's anything I can do, let me know. And lo and behold, she kind of was friends with Zaza. And so one day Zaza kind of contacted me and we get emails all the time and stuff, and we kind of started talking, and I said, well, send me some video, a javelin thrower from Nigeria. I'm just like, okay, sure, send me video. And I saw the video and my jaw about hit the ground. I was just like, and he hadn't thrown that far yet, but just seeing the ability and the rocket he had, I was like, we need to try to get this kid. And eventually, we recruited for a while, and he was really sold on Baylor. He's strong in his faith, so that was a big seller. But signing him, I didn't realize at that point was going to be kind of the easy point, because we basically did that through COVID, and then he was supposed to come in August, and they canceled his visa appointment like 3 weeks before he was supposed to be here. So he actually couldn't come. So he was supposed to be here in August, and then he had to stay home for that whole fall. And that was COVID, and that's when they started shutting it down the country. Remember, around Christmas time, they started shutting down letting anyone come in into America. So it was insane. I mean, every day we were just trying to, hopefully he would get his visa appointment, emergency. He finally got one, like maybe right at around Thanksgiving. He'd been trying since August to get an appointment. Finally got one around Thanksgiving, and he actually got his visa, and we got him on a ticket as soon as we could to get here, just because we didn't know if they were going to close the borders. And the poor kid flew over here from Nigeria. Obviously, he's in culture shock, and then it's COVID. So he had to quarantine for 2 weeks by himself in a dorm here on campus. Spent Christmas Day by himself because no one could go near him. Basically, every other day I was dropping off food to him, and coming from Nigeria, all the food I was dropping off, he couldn't stomach. So, it was really interesting those first few weeks. So, it was a process just to get him here, and it just seems like, it was meant to be, because at the end of the day, everything kind of fell in place. But for a while there, we were just, every day I'd wake up and I'm like, I don't know if he's going to get here or not. We've been working on trying to get him here for probably about a year, So it was a process, and it's kind of pretty awesome to see where it all started, and then where it's starting to end, and all those accomplishments he's had now, and now he's going to the Olympics. It's pretty wild to think that we were one decision one day away of maybe him not even being able to get here.
Yeah. You were talking about the food thing, and it made me think of the fact that, like, Rice in Houston, in the Houston area, where there's a tremendous Nigerian heritage and family. I'm almost surprised they don't get like all the recruits from Nigeria or something, because it's not like Waco. We've got a lot of options that maybe we love, but I don't think from a Nigerian grocery store or a Nigerian restaurant, maybe he's found something, but there wouldn't be a lot of options. Something tells me, Jeff, that Zaza over the years has developed a taste for some of the American food. Is that right? Is he okay now?
I always tell the story. So he, of course he comes to my house for Thanksgiving, and at first Thanksgiving he came over and he had a plate, and about the only thing he ate was a scoop of mac and cheese, right? And then maybe some pie, because he likes desserts. And then at next year it was like mac and cheese and some turkey and maybe some vegetables. And then this year he comes over and it is just, his plate is this big with everything on it, and I'm like, the evolution of the 3 years is really cool. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of the international kids come over to our house for Thanksgiving every year from Jamaica and other places, and it's kind of the same thing with them. At first they don't really eat a whole lot, but then the next year they venture out, and now he I wouldn't say he loves American food, but he eats it and isn't isn't as weirded out by it, But he to his credit, he cooks a lot. He cooks a lot.
Wow.
Even when he travels and we travel to meets, a lot of times he'll have his little Tupperware with his food he likes and all that. And he eats, he's pretty regimented of what he eats and all that. But he's got a sweet tooth, so every now and then my wife will bring him a cookie or something. He can't turn that down, but for the most part he's pretty he likes to cook, he likes what he eats. But it's been nice to see holidays him kind of come over and embrace it now.
How quickly were you able to get him from kind of the raw, whatever you saw on tape that made you go, yeah, we think we can work with him? Was it like a meteoric type rise, or was it a normal sort of gradual improvement for him to get him to the point where he obviously is one of the best in the world?
Well, when we signed him, he had thrown 73 meters. And then he actually went to the World Juniors that summer. America didn't go, so there didn't get a lot of publication because it was in Kenya. A lot of countries didn't go, but he actually he had one throw there that threw 78. And then of course everyone was like, who is this guy that's throwing 78 meters? Because that's a pretty darn good throw. So then he came in here and basically just started getting better every week that first year. And he's been throwing further, but the neat part is in the last year or so, he's really, especially this year, he's improved a lot. He still hasn't maybe had that huge 85 meter throw, but very consistent. His bad throws are what his good throws were a few years ago. So he came in and had a lot of talent, and we just kind of worked with it and tried to manage it the best we could that year. And then once we kind of had a full year under our belt and he could do all the training in the fall and the spring, he's just really gotten more and more consistent and better and better. There's javelin is like, I always tell people that don't understand it, it's like a golf swing too, where everyone has a little bit of different, of course you got your clubs are different, but everyone has a little bit of different movement. Everyone, it feels different. So it does take some time to figure out what really works for that athlete. And then, as he gets stronger, that kind of motor pattern has to change a little bit and things like that. So it's a constant evaluation and flow, but he's great at communicating and figuring it out. So I think he came in and maybe surprised people of how far he threw right away, but he didn't surprise me from that first workout. I was like, all right, this is something pretty special. This is going to be a fun ride here these next few years.
When you're not with him, like if he's in Germany or wherever he's kind of been preparing for all of this, and obviously there's a lot of travel, and you get to go probably on some of these adventures with him. Do people send you video? Does he kind of have somebody video him so you can so he can get other set of eyes on
Yeah.
how he's doing and get feedback from you?
Yeah, so we just about every morning I wake up and there's a text message from him. Of course with the time change in Paris and in Germany, but I kind of send him the workouts for the week, and then when he's throwing and doing some work, he'll always have someone video some and send it, and we'll kind of talk about it. The thing about javelin throwers, just by design, for indoor track, we're traveling every weekend, and he doesn't do indoor, so he's by himself in Waco, pretty much every Thursday, Friday through the weekend. So javelin throwers by nature are a little bit more independent. They're okay with that. If he was a shot putter, it might be a little bit more intense. But just by their nature, he's a little bit more independent. But yeah, I mean, we talk just about every morning, kind of go over the program, what he's doing and things like that. And the nature of the javelin is it's not like the other throwing events where you can't throw that much. It takes so much out of your body too. So, I mean, his workouts now are the majority of it is getting his body warmed up, loosened up so that he can take a handful of throws. And then it's not like he can necessarily send them and then it's like, okay, he's going to go do that training again. He almost has to wait a few days before his body recuperates to do it again. So it works out pretty good on these long trips that as long as we're communicating, he can kind of manage pretty good.
How you were one of the country's top shot putters, and I was looking in Kentucky, you were All-American many times over and won the conference several times. I don't know, 8 times. I mean, you really had a decorated career there. Did Jeff? Did you at some point, as you start coaching all these different things, the hammer, the javelin, the shot, obviously you were great at one of those particular throws. Did you almost over the years have to start picking up these other things to at least get a feel for what that whole process feels like and actually do it yourself, so you would have the ability to even, give the feedback so you as a thrower knew what that felt like? How have you evolved in that area as a coach?
Yeah, it's, I obviously was a shot putter, so I know literally what it feels like. And a lot of times I can predict that. But when I'm coaching someone like Zaza, when I first got into coaching, I had to just bury myself in education with mentors and people trying to learn the best I could of the events I necessarily didn't throw a lot. And I was not a javelin thrower. I'm probably the opposite build you could have for a javelin thrower. So I still don't know what it feels like, to throw the javelin. That's why at practice, most of the time after a throw, my first question is always, what did that feel like? And then it's like, okay, well, here's what it looked like. This is what's happening here. But sometimes he throws a throw and, he can feel something. And I've learned to help coach him, and I know what he needs to feel, but I've never felt it, so with him, especially when we're coaching, a lot of it is, he'll take a throw or do a drill, and I'll say, okay, what did that feel like? He'll tell me, and then I can say, okay, this is what I'm seeing. This is why you're feeling this, and then this is that. This is what we need to do to fix it, and it works out. It works out really well because of his coaching when he grew up. That's kind of how he learned. Was he didn't. I mean, he always told me for months and months and months he would throw, and it was never about how far it went. It was about what it felt. So, which is a quality of a really good coach, So he was trained to understand the event the right way and how it feels, and I rely on him to kind of give me that feedback, and then I can kind of figure out what needs to happen in the event. Opposed to shot putters, I can look and just say, "Hey, man, I know you didn't feel this. You got to feel this." And he's okay, coach, but the javelin, it's more of I got to rely on him first.
Jeff Chakouian joining us, known as Chak, on the Matt Mosley Show, and obviously the Obstructed View podcast, but also ESPN Central Texas. Who most sports we ask young folks, like who you like to emulate. Who's your favorite NBA player? That kind of thing. Did Zaza, as he got better and better at this, have anybody that he really looked up to, whether it was somebody from Nigeria or it was somebody from another country, but that had gone some similar path and had put up great numbers? Is there anybody like you like to show him film of, or do you just like to kind of keep the focus on what he's doing?
No, his motor pattern is kind of who he emulates is Zalesny, who's the world record holder, and Zaza is very visual, very visual. So I mean, there'll be times at practice, even at meets, where I have on my phone probably about 15 Zalesny videos, and we'll be at a track meet, and he'll be like, "Let me see that video where he threw 89," and I'll pull it up and show it, and he just kind of watches it 2 or 3 times to try to get that rhythm in his head. And then he goes out there, and tries to emulate it. So he's very visual. So we do a lot of his video analysis, and he does a lot kind of on his own looking at it. But yeah, I mean, he watches Zalesny more than he watches his own film, which is really important for him.
That's interesting, and so those throws were obviously massive. Does Zaza? We talk about deliveries in baseball, and like you say, everybody has their own little special kind of touch to this thing. What would you say is kind of his signature? Is there a part of the ramp up or the actual throwing motion that maybe sets him apart from other throwers?
Yeah, I mean, he just has an absolute rocket. But it's not his arm, it's his body, because he's incredibly strong for his size. But he is extremely flexible. He does stuff that people just freak out. You're like, oh my gosh, how can he do that? I mean, he could take a med ball that's 30 pounds, stand up, go all the way back, touch it to the ground, come up and throw it. It looks like it's fake. So he's blessed with a lot of, strength, but his flexibility sets him apart. And those two combinations, just when he comes up and takes a couple steps and throws it, I mean, there might be someone else in the world that can throw as far as him, but there might not be. I mean, that kind of catch it from the outfield and you got to throw the guy out at home. That little crow hop throw type of a thing, he can generate so much power. It's really impressive. And we've gone to these, African games, Commonwealth games, and he's been throwing against guys that are Olympic champions. And every now and then we'll take 1 or 2 hard throws at the end of practice, just really casual, but just kind of trying to make sure he delivers it at full velocity through his hand. And everyone kind of just goes, who is that? And it's like, these are guys that are Olympic finalists and Olympic champions. He's just unbelievable in that aspect.
How much, and when you said that baseball analogy, I started seeing like every right fielder I've seen throughout my whole life, right? I'm thinking of Dwight Evans with Dewey Evans, they called him, with the Red Sox, and Dave Winfield with the Yankees, of just that, what you're talking about, those massive arms. And so that is interesting that have the weight. Now, from a weight perspective, I sort of have the thought of like, certain people in football conditioning, and boy, you've got all the strength and conditioning background too, of so clean and jerk, the squats. There's certain things in football that people really focus on with throwing, whether it's your shot putters or your javelin throwers. But let's stick with the javelin. Is there anything in the weight room that you're really like, what are you stressing the most to get that power? Is he doing a lot of squats? What's the weight you have him kind of when he's in the weight room? What's he hitting the most?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the stuff that he does in the weight room is single leg type of things, trying to make sure that there's no imbalances. I mean, he has a lot of power. Obviously, he does a lot of the Olympic lifts to create more power. But a lot of what he does a lot of the year in the weight room is actually just trying to keep him healthy so that his body can handle how hard he's throwing. But his speed's gone up, his power's gone up, his jumping ability's gone up since he's been here. And it's just really enhanced his power and his throw. But we don't have to focus on that a whole lot because he's so powerful already. So we're trying to make sure that, he's getting strong and he's doing the specific exercises that'll keep him healthy through the long haul. And I actually do pretty much all the strength and conditioning stuff for all the throwers, but I don't do the javelin. Coach Roof has a really good background in that, so I kind of, we talk about what he's going to do and we kind of come up with the program, but he basically runs him through it most of the year. And he's really good at finding specific exercises for the javelin, and then also just developing horsepower. But a lot of what he's doing is the impact when he throws is so great on that body that we're trying to make sure that his body's strong enough to hold it.
Now, I'm sure he's like in the Olympic Village and getting to have some of the fun, but he also sounds like he's extremely focused. What about, like, are he and Nathaniel both being on the Nigerian team pretty tight? Like, who do you think he's hanging out there with the most? Are the throwers from the different nations because of all these competitions? Do you think it's like track. I see Noah Lyles mouthing off, and I would not say like he and Curly are that great of friends, right? They seem to always be like barking at each other. Is it like that at all with the throwers, or is there more of a kinship unity type thing?
Yeah, there's more of a camaraderie with the throwers. I think just track in general, a lot of times they're talking about track, and the throwers may be off in a field, kind of by themselves. So throwers usually have a lot of camaraderie. A lot of the throwers and field event people in general will help each other. If they don't have a coach there or something, they'll kind of help each other. Not necessarily in big track meets, but in training, if they have questions and they try to learn from each other. The thing about Zaza though is he's an introvert, very big introvert. So if I know Za, he's basically eating and training, and then the rest of the time he's probably just hanging out in his room. And he's got a few good friends on that Nigerian team, and Nathaniel's one of them, but some other friends that he knows from home. And he's not someone that's probably venturing out a whole lot. Matter of fact, I think my wife was texting with Coach Ford the other day, and he said, "Have you guys heard from Zaza? I haven't even seen him yet." And he knows. I said, "Yeah, he's doing good. We're talking to him and all that." And he's like, "All right, cool." Because, Nathaniel's someone that'll he'll talk a lot, and he's real boisterous and has a great personality. And Zaza is, if you give him 3 days, if he's not training or eating or something like that, he's probably in the hotel room watching movies and hanging out. That's how he is even here at Baylor. He went to that African championships a few weeks ago, and our other hurdle coach was there, Coach Ben. And I told him, I said, go to that hotel room and drag him out. You need to make sure he's getting to the track and doing stuff, because he's, he just kind of likes to, hang out. He's just a really pretty big introvert. So
yeah,
I get over there and I'll have a lot of the fun and the festivities and all that, and show him the pictures, and he thinks it's pretty cool. And then I'll say, "Hey, you want to go do something on one of these trips?" And he's like, "No, Coach, I'm fine." He thinks it's cool. We can see pictures, but
what are you excited about seeing in Paris? I mean, you've traveled, I'm sure, extensively, both competing but also recruiting and all of that kind of thing. Is there anything in Paris that you've either loved in the past or that you're looking forward to doing or checking out, or are you someone that wants to maybe try to attend a few events while you're there?
Yeah, we're gonna I've never been to Paris. So I've been to Europe a bunch, but I've never been to actual Paris. So it's I'm gonna find times to make sure we can go to the Eiffel Tower and do all that type of stuff as well. But I'm just excited to be there when not so much Paris, but the Olympics. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. When you first start running track and field, throwing, whatever it is, your dream is always to go to the Olympics. I mean, every athlete at Midway High and all that, their dream when they first started is, I want to be an Olympian, so to actually have a chance to go there and be a part of it, it's just incredible. And I mean, I can't wait just to soak in that energy. I think it may take a week or so just to recover when we get home, because because the energy that city's just going to be on fire, and I want to try to get out and see some other events for sure, but it's expensive too. So we'll see. We're definitely going to spend our fair share of time at the track. That's kind of as much. I will see as much track as I can, and I'm hoping that we can go into some other events. I'd like to go see boxing or weightlifting, something like that. But I'm really trying to focus on Zaza first, and when he's not there, it'll pretty much be track. And when we're not there at track, it'll be just kind of soaking in the atmosphere of the Olympics, because it's just, I've had so many people, my high school coaches and all these other people reaching out, talking about how it's going to be so incredible for us to go and have an athlete there. So I'm really looking forward to, being there. And the number one priority is obviously Zaza. But I'm not going to sit in my hotel room like he will. I'll be out doing stuff and really enjoying the sights. So I would love to go to basketball or soccer or something like that, but they're so spread out. They're not even in Paris. They're a couple hours away. So
yeah. If you wanted to see surfing, you'd have to go to Tahiti, like 7 or 8 hours away or something like that. And I saw, I think NBC's like somehow using one of their Saturday Night Live people to cover that. So look out, Snoop and Flava Flav. They've been all over the. I think a Snoop picture with Zaza would be fun. I don't think we have much of a chance of that happening with Zaza staying in his room so much. But what an experience it's going to be. Boy, I appreciate this. It's one of the reasons I love doing this podcast, Coach, is because I don't know if the people I have on love it, but I can just kind of, there's more. I'm not constricted to just a quick, 10, 12 minutes or whatever. Josie probably prefer I stick to my shorter script. But boy, thank you because I think it's just fascinating to all of us. But to your point, Nooney Omat played at Baylor. He's on the South Sudan basketball team that's been incredible and almost knocked off the U.S. Brittany from Baylor, basketball. Avery Skinner last night, I'm watching her play volleyball. So you got the Baylor family. Then you got Team USA that you want to root for everybody, because obviously you being from Massachusetts, you're a big Team USA guy. But then, of course, you'll have your Nigerian because flag kind of with you there, because helping Zaza and Nathaniel and the whole gang. So what a time it will be. And then, of course, Michael's got all his duties. So y'all really have, Baylor has this thing across the board, and it's a reminder, the track and field legacy from Coach Hart, and then you and Michael and boy, your hurdling coach you were just mentioning have carried on the tradition. So congratulations to you. Have a wonderful time, and don't be a stranger. I'd love to talk to you when you get back, and it was fun to get to visit with you.
Yeah, I love it. I feel like I finally made it in Baylor and Waco. I'm on the Matt Mosley show. Listen to you on the way home. Quite a bit and stuff like that, and it was pretty cool. So I think one of the coolest things you could do is eventually, if you can make it out to a meet or even a practice, and it's really neat. You really get an appreciation. You obviously can see people run the track, but when you hold a shot put, when you see a javelin and you actually go, I want to take a throw, and it goes about 30 feet, and then you realize Zaza's throwing it the whole football field almost. It's pretty remarkable. So anytime you want to come out and try one of the events, the shot put or the javelin will be a lot easier for you. I mean, you can always come out and run a 400, but the most people aren't going to want to do that,
Yeah, the track meets I would go to when I was at Baylor, my buddy, he's several years older, I would like to point out, but he was a long distance runner, and he is now a doctor, Dr. Tyler Cooper. And in fact, his sister ran track at Baylor too. And one of the rooms there at the track complex is named after Berkeley, the Cooper family, but Tyler Cooper. And so he got whatever it was, all conference or something. And he reminds me of that almost on a daily basis. So, but boy, the legacy at Baylor is awesome. And boy, fun having you on. And you're obviously a great guy. Have a wonderful time over there. And it's been great having you.
Yeah, you too. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
That is Jeff Chakouian. That is another episode of Matt Mosley's obstructed view. And boy, we really appreciate everybody tuning in for this one.
We are Rogue Media Sports.